volume of activity going on our borders. In the last fiscal year, 1.1 million people were apprehended at the border, and over 1 million of them were returned to their home country. The President just signed a $1.9 billion supplemental for new funding for border security and deployment of National Guard to the border in this fiscal year, as we double the size of the Border Patrol. We've ended the policy of catch and release for people other than Mexicans, and we're finding new compassionate ways to reduce the pressure on the border and return Mexican nationals not just across the border, but to their hometowns. We're working with the Mexican government, which is using many of these same measures to secure its borders and interdict drug smugglers going north or guns coming south. We must, second, improve our interior enforcement. We must enforce the law. It's against the law to hire illegal workers in the United States. And we've increased funding for immigration enforcement by 42%. But we've got to realize the system is broken. We need a good document verification system because small business owners should not have to act like detectives to determine the eligibility of workers. And we need to create a tamper-proof biometric ID card for temporary workers who come from abroad to work here, so we know who's here illegally and who's here legally. But all these measures will come to naught without a temporary worker program. Border security is simply impossible without reducing the pressure on the borders. As the President likes to say, family values don't stop at the Rio Grande. If you can make 50 cents an hour in Mexico and 10 bucks an hour in the United States and you want to feed your family, you're coming for the 10 bucks every time. The lesson of the 1986 Immigration Reform Act was no TWP, no temporary worker program, there's no solution. We need to have a program in place that will match willing workers with willing employers for jobs that Americans will not do. It will be a source of economic strength for our country, and it will bring workers who today are hidden in the shadows, outside the protection of our law. It will bring them into the light and provide them the full protection of the law so they will not be exploited and they will not be abused. Let us also be clear. Most illegal workers come here not with the idea of staying, but with the idea of building a nest egg. The average startup cost of a Mexican business is $5,000 US. But what happens? They come here after great expense and difficulty and life-threatening dangers. We've made it more difficult to get back and cross the border, so dad dies and they can't go home, and little sister gets married and they can't go home, and their little brother graduates from high school and they can't go home. And they wake up 5 or 10 years later and they say, I have no relationship to the place from which I came. Why should we be surprised? We need to have circularity in the system so that people can come here to work and go home. It will benefit the North American economy by providing a way for Mexicans and Latin Americans to work in the U.S., to save enough to go home and to support their families. Fourth, we must address the status of the current undocumented in our society. The Pew Hispanic Center did a study last year. They estimate there are 12 million undocumented people among us. About 60% of whom have been here for more than 5 years. It is not enough to say, send them home. The answer is complex, but too many people simplify the problem into one word, amnesty. In an issue this vital, we cannot allow words to be misused. I don't know too many people who are recommending amnesty. Amnesty, according to the dictionaries that I use, says a pardon, forgiveness without a penalty. And I'm not hearing too many people suggesting that the people here should not bear a penalty. The President and many in Congress are suggesting something different. They recognize there are illegal immigrants in our country who have roots in America, who are working hard, raising a family, built a home, and who want to stay. And if they do, we ought to provide a way for them to do so by paying a penalty and showing that they want to be Americans. Pay a meaningful penalty for breaking the law, pay any back taxes, learn English, and work in a job. And if you want to become a citizen, fine. You can apply and go to the back of the line standing behind those who've already applied legally and are waiting. That's a practical and reasonable way for those who broke the law and come in here illegally to pay their debts in society. Now, some might suggest that those who enter the country illegally should be granted automatic citizenship. But that's not what our Constitution says. It says automatic citizenship only goes to those who are born here. And there's no higher benefit America can bestow upon an immigrant than to honor him or her with citizenship. And for every person who made their way into the country illegally, regardless of cause or intention, there are many more waiting in their home country to come to America in a legal fashion, and we must be fair to them. In the Hispanic community today, there are millions who are citizens who followed the law to become an American citizen, and is it fair to them or to those like them waiting in line for others to jump ahead? I don't think so. And is a line in the sand on automatic citizenship worth risking a comprehensive solution to our immigration challenges? It is important that we stay focused on a practical, comprehensive solution to this problem and work together in the weeks ahead to achieve it. Finally, we need to think about assimilation. There are a lot of people in the country, well-meaning, decent people, who are deeply concerned about immigration because they're concerned at the end of it, we're not going to be America. And guess what? That's been the fear that a lot of people have had over the years. That was the fear in the 1830s and 40s with the Irish, in the 1840s and 1850s with the Germans, in the 1870s and 80s with the Nordics, and so forth. We're good at this. We're good at assimilating people into America. Command of the English language is vital to that, because command of English dramatically increases the likelihood of everybody achieving the